So I think that's where people are. The problem is when you don't have a good base, like when a tree doesn't have good roots, okay? This is the same concept. People are undereducated on these subjects. This is really complex stuff that Trump is dusting off to make the country a better place, and people don't know about it. So, but that doesn't stop them from opening their pie hole, which is fine because this is supposedly a free speech platform. But the problem is nobody likes being critiqued because of ego or because they have TDS. I had an exchange yesterday on a thread with a well-known Spaces host, so I could share that thread up there as well. None of the minions were dogpiling me because I'm right. So it wasn't contrary to for the sake of being contrarian. I was 100% correct in all these points. I'll get into that. So let's take a look at this. All right. The best place to do is have a foundation in knowledge, because without that, you're like in the dark with a hood on and sunglasses. It's like, what's the point? And by the way, the article I'm going to use today to read to you guys from is from timemagazine.com. Hardly a right wing publication. Okay, so this is I could share this article out if you guys want. It's from yesterday. So the headline is, "What is the Home Rule Act of 1973? The law Trump invoked in his DC takeover." Okay, takeover question mark. For now, I'm going to allow that word takeover, even though I'm going to spend an hour here telling you guys why our capital is federal and it's not a state that has autonomy. Okay. Um, to take control of the police force of Washington, D.C., President Trump on Monday invoked part of the law that has given the nation's capital a greater degree of self governance over the past 5 decades. Citing, quote, violent crime, Trump declared a public safety emergency in D.C. and invoked Section 740 of the District of Columbia Home Rule Act of 1973. Okay, and there's a nice little link here. So let's go right to Section 740. Okay, just bear with me. I think I've got it bookmarked here. It's not a lot of reading. I know it's early and this shit's boring, but it's important you guys understand what's the what. Because if you don't know what's the what, you don't know where to go. Okay. So adjustments. Okay. Adjustment. Okay. Blah, blah, blah. So this has a really nice PDF attached to it if you're interested. Like I said, I could share this out if you guys want it. Just give me one moment here to get to, okay, page 98. Here we are. Okay. So, emergency control of police. This is what President Trump is specifically citing. Okay, it's on page 97 of the Home Rule Act PDF. Uh, it's 117 pages long. I'm just going to read you these few paragraphs. Okay. Section 740. A. Notwithstanding any other provisions of law, whether the President of the United States determines that special conditions of an emergency nature exist which require use of the Metropolitan Police Force for federal purposes. He may direct the mayor to provide him, and the mayor shall provide. Okay, this is very important, guys. This cluster of words. The mayor shall provide. It's not optional. She's under orders from the president of the United States to comply with her metropolitan. This isn't like, hey, mayor, I'm asking you to do this. No, it's an order. Okay, so it's very important we understand the juice behind this Section 740, because it's going to be misinformation city the next 5 days and gaslight city on this app. So I'm just trying to get ahead of this for the folks. Okay, the mayor shall provide such services of the Metro Police Force as the president may deem necessary and appropriate. In no case, however, shall such services made available pursuant to any such direction under this subsection extend for a period in excess of 48 hours unless the president has, prior to the expiration of such period, notified the chairman and ranking minority members of the committees on the District of Columbia, of the Senate and House of Representatives in writing as to the reason for such direction and the period of time during which the need for such services is likely to continue. Okay, there's a lot there. This is really, really important. I would share this because I recorded it with people who are not awake yet or aren't listening to this. This is so important, guys. Okay, Trump has dotted the i's and crossed the t's. Okay, so what I just read is basically telling you that Trump can't just do this in a vacuum. He has to provide documentation to the House Oversight Committee and the Citizen Board of the District of Columbia. They're like a giant neighborhood, guys. Okay, that's what the Washington D.C. is. Don't people think of it as a state? It's a bit like yesterday. People thought it was a state. It's crazy. So let me get this up in the nest because President Trump did his homework, and look what I found. See what a little bit of remedial research will do. He sent a letter to the House Oversight Committee, Chairman James Comer, Republican of Kentucky. So what is Section 740 call for? That the president has to provide explanation to the chairman and ranking minority members of the committees on the District of Columbia of the Senate and House of Representatives in writing. So, because the GOP is in the majority, he's sending it to the chairman, Jim Comer, and then the ranking Democrat on the committee. So, look, there's his homework, Section 740. So, before you go into what's his name space on silent listener mode and listen to that bullshit, yesterday or later today, that it's a federal takeover. Um, it's not right, guys. It's simply incorrect. It's a presumptuous talking point that is not wait. See, nobody's done this sort of research. I don't understand why people just allow this stuff to go. Not you guys. I'm saying just in general. Why are people allowing this to go on? It's like you're boxing yourself in for a Democrat echo chamber and not getting the actual story. This took me like 5 minutes, guys, to pull up online. I have no legal training, nor do I want any. Uh, this is simple shit. And yet we have an app with millions of people on it who want to make it unsimple. It's very frustrating when you're a guy like me who's a root cause person, right? So unbelievable. If people would just do a little bit of research, they would understand. I'm not saying they have to like it, but I'm saying they have to represent the argument correctly. These people would make terrible attorneys. They would never win a case, whether they were a prosecutor or a defense attorney, because they don't do homework. They're not serving their clients well. They're not serving even the, not that I care so much, but the sycophants that go into spaces that want to hear Trump bashing and cover ups. They're being lied to because they're not getting correct information. They're getting filtered information to present a certain angle that we're in a state of martial law in our nation's capital. This is not Lincoln suspending habeas corpus, guys. This is something quite different. This couldn't be more in line with the rule of law. All right. It could not be more crystal clear. Only a blind man or a willingly stupid person would say otherwise. I'll let you decide what the opposition is being. Are they being blind or willingly stupid? Or both? Because one thing they're not being is correct. Okay. Continuing. Is there anything else in that? Because it's only a few. Yeah, it's only like two paragraphs. Uh, so you can read it. Like I said, I'll put this article out. Basically, this is my prediction: is this whole fucking operation is going to be about 30 days. I don't think Trump is going to test the limits of his power. I don't think he needs more than 30 days to clean this up. So, Section 740 in the Home Rule Act of the District of Columbia of 1973, Section 740 says you have to be in communication with the mayor, the Citizens Council in Washington, D.C., and the House Oversight Committee, House of Representatives, both the majority party, the GOP, and the opposition party, minority party Democrats. He has done so. He's dotted his I's and crossed the T's. That's all that this statute requires, guys. So he's complied with everything that's in his responsibility as chief executive commander in chief of the United States of America. That's it. There's nothing else to talk about. There's nothing else to opine about. There's nothing else to bloviate about. They set up the parameters. He met those parameters. I don't expect Democrats or people with TES or the Epstein posse to like this, but that's not relevant. What's relevant is he followed the rule of law, which he did. You've not heard one legal expert on CNN or MSLSD say that this will not hold up in court. Like, when they were challenging with mass deportations and to a lesser extent tariffs, you're not hearing any of that because it's not legally possible. Okay? The president of the United States, being the head of the federal government, has tremendous purview over the District of Columbia, which is, again, for the 50th time, federal. It is not a state. Yes, it's a city. It's our capital. It's not part of the state of Maryland or the Commonwealth of Virginia. It's its own autonomous zone, and it always has been since the founding of our country. It's not your fault people don't understand that, but I want you to understand it. Continuing, let's see what else we got, friends. I put a bunch of stuff aside for you. What do we got? What do we got here? Okay, so and there's that Oversight Committee post. Let me just read that to you. President Trump delivered a letter to the House Oversight Committee giving us notice of his move to restore law and order in Washington, D.C. We will make D.C. safe again. Okay, so no pushback from the House Oversight Committee, Chairman James Comer of Kentucky. No pushback from Speaker Mike Johnson, Speaker of the House of the great state of Louisiana. Okay, so we're all in compliance here. All right. What other mess do I have to clean up this morning? Well, let me just give you some stats before I talk about the mess I have to clean up. I'll give you that thread I had with Diligent there. Here's just some statistics, which of course were cited. If you look up, it's the third post rapid response. Okay, so our murder rate is about 28% in Washington, D.C. Look at some of the fucking cities we're ahead of: Mexico City, Bodega, Colombia, Lima, Peru. Oh, look, Ottawa, Ontario is at 2%. Paris, about 1.5%. Havana, Cuba. So we're basically twice what any South American shithole capital has for violence and crime, and et cetera. Okay, not good. I don't know how anybody could sit here and say, because here's the thing, guys. Him Dill yesterday, that the counter argument to what we're saying is that the crime and anarchy is acceptable. Okay, you might you might call it federal overreach or whatever, but I mean, here's the thing. Like I keep saying, we call them normies for a reason, and I don't know so much if they care about this nuance argument you're trying to make, that it's Trump. It's the fast train to being a dictator. I think what people look at is that, okay, it's our capital city. This crime, vagrancy, it's a shithole. People are getting mugged and maimed. I want that to stop because I want to visit the Capitol and I want to take my kids to the national museums or whatever, the Lincoln Memorial, all the tourist areas. So I would advocate President Trump cleaning up the crime. That's it. Most people don't really think of it they're not like pulling out their pocket constitution, guys, and they shouldn't, because this is not unconstitutional. This is not something Trump is going to get sued over. The only person who has ability to sue him over it of substance is the mayor of DC, Mariel Bowser. She's not, she's been whining and bitching, but she's got no leg to stand on, and she knows it. She would have announced a lawsuit yesterday. Her city's in chaos and she can't handle the crime. And people that are saying Trump's being a dictator, whether I don't even care if it's fair, but whether it's their intention or not, they're basically saying that the taxpayers of the District of Columbia should, and there's a lot of poor people there. It's not all rich people and bureaucrats and lobbyists. What they're basically saying is they need to suck it up because we don't have a king in our country. We don't have a dictator. Meanwhile, people that live in the District of Columbia are not living in a state. They live in a federal autonomous zone. So if somebody lived in the Navy Yard neighborhood of Washington, D.C., what state do you live in? Oh, I live in D.C. They don't say I live in Maryland. They don't say I live in Northern Virginia. They say I live in D.C. You literally do not live in a state. You vote in the District of Columbia, but you don't live in a state. Does that make sense? If anybody has any questions about this, please take a mic. If anybody's worked or lived in Washington, D.C., yes, you have a mailing address. Yes, you register to vote at City Hall. Yes, you vote at your local, whatever, junior high or post office. No, you do not live in a state. Don't confuse the capital of the United States with the capital. Okay, the city of Boston, which is the capital of Massachusetts, is not the same as Washington, D.C., the capital of the United States. The capital of California, Sacramento, is not the same thing. The city of Sacramento is not the same thing as the District of Columbia. Are we clear? I'm using a couple blue states here. Tallahassee is different than Washington, D.C. Do you guys follow? I'm using red state, blue state. So you understand. Okay, even our protectorates like Puerto Rico, San Juan, the city of San Juan, the capital of Puerto Rico, is not the same thing as the District of Columbia, the capital of the United States. One is a territory, Puerto Rico. One is federal, the capital of the United States of America, Washington, D.C. D.C., District of Columbia. Chris, what's up, man? Good morning. Go ahead.
Hey, what's up? Good morning. Now, I'm just going to be the opposite side here now, just for a second. Not that I believe any of this stuff, but now, what do you feel about his comments about doing this in Chicago, LA, and New York? Because that's where I feel the people are going the route of martial law and that stuff. And I mean, I feel it was a troll. Like, in my opinion, I think he was just kind of to get the people going on, like, kind of to get this, whatever you want to call it, this operation kind of going type of thing. But what's your opinion on that, on these other big cities that, because these are in states, not in this autonomous zone we're talking about here?
It's a great question. And that's what Diligent was alluding to yesterday, trying to ask me a lead-in question. Do you guys remember 2020, the summer of love? Where was all the crime and anarchy happening? I'll just throw it, well, every Democrat city, but here's a few: Portland, Oregon, Seattle, Washington, San Francisco, Minneapolis, Minnesota, etc. What did Trump not do that everybody wanted him to do? Everybody, think of who his inner circle was in towards the end of his presidency: John Bolton, Mike Pompeo, Mike Pence, right? Couple of this is like a laundry list of fucking losers, right? They all wanted him to invoke martial law, federalize the National Guards in those Democrat states during the BLM riots and the COVID riots, etc. He offered help to every mayor and governor in blue states. The ones that stick out is Washington State and where Seattle is. That they had that Capitol Hill. What was it, Chaz? Capitol Hill Autonomous Zone, not to be confused with the Capitol Hill in Washington D.C. Just a section of the city of Seattle. I think it was Seattle or Portland, Oregon. I can't remember. But long story short, Chris, he's saying that to provoke the Democrat governors and mayors in those states, and all the states you named are all deep blue states, right? All under complete Democrat control. He's saying that to get them to try and act. He did not federalize, and a lot of people would say that might have cost the people that believe that Biden won it fair and square. A lot of people will say that might have cost him the presidency in 2020 is that he he wanted to show everybody, look, these Democrats are letting your cities be destroyed by Black Lives Matter or just like COVID tyranny type tactics. And I didn't do anything then. I don't think he will. And here's the reason, Chris. He's got Washington, D.C. pretty sewn up right now. He's got Judge Janine as the district attorney there. He can't do any of this without her. Okay. Um, she's the federal attorney for the District of Columbia. Okay. There are a lot of Democrat judges in that district, which they can't do anything about the Home Rule Act in 1973, but they can probably, of course, Washington, D.C., like Boston, like New York, has no cash bail. So he can't really do this in Chicago, Boston, New York, because he doesn't have who's the attorney general in New York? Letitia James. I mean, she's under prosecution right now for mortgage fraud. So the chances of her wanting to get off her fat ass and help clean up the crime in that city are probably next to zero. Less than zero, if that's possible. Same deal in Chicago. You got Mayor Brandon Johnson and all Democrat judges, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, go ahead, man. Go ahead, Chris. Do you have your hand
Oh,
up?
and then
Yeah.
yeah, no, I did know. And then I had one more thing. Now, if in 30, say you like you said 30 days, like that it should be cleaned up, which I feel as well. I think that a lot of these states are. I mean, we're seeing less violence across the United States. That's what I've seen. I don't know if the stats are correct or if I'm looking at the right stats type of thing. But now, if it's not done in 30 days, then it seems to be that they're there for a longer period of time, and the stuff is seen to be cleaned up, quote unquote. What do you like? Do you what threshold do you get to a point, if there is one, to be like, okay, this is overreach by our government?
For me, none, because at least when it comes to Washington, D.C., Chris, because like I said, it's a federal run city. Um, but I do think he's going to be very conservative and not exceed 30 days because the more I read into this, and I have his executive order in front of me, supplementing his invoking of this act, is that he's going to um, probably have to request an extension. He'll have to write additional letter, probably sign another executive order. I don't think he wants to do that. This is about cleaning up the homelessness, the vagrancy, and prosecuting criminals, and they're having a big problem in Washington, D.C. This is where the judges come into play. So this is something I'm a little bit worried about. They're having a lot of teenage crime there. A lot of people are being robbed at gunpoint by 15-year-olds because they don't face any penalty in Washington, D.C. The district will release them uh, back out into the general public because they're minors when they should be tried as adults. Evidently that Doge big balls guy that got attacked there was trying to prevent the mugging. I guess that was with a teenager. Uh, so yeah, they've got some dangerous problems there, and what's really worrisome is it's involving minors. Minors are a crime syndicate in Washington D.C. It's typically like black youth, surprisingly ages 15 to 17. There's a lot of people that a lot of minors that are committing crimes, and they're doing that mainly because there's no recourse. They it's cashless bail. They go to a family court. They don't even get arraigned in a regular court because they can't face the charges an adult would. So Judge Janine's got I mean, she's very good, very smart. She's got a lot ahead of her here. Um, but they need to make some arrests, Chris, and they need to incarcerate people uh, in short order. Otherwise this could go sideways pretty quick.
Yeah,
All right.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
thanks for answering those, because like I said, I was gonna say is that these are the questions that I'm getting from, say, like my wife and the normies that kind of are on the fence, have always been on the fence. But like it's good to have, like I said, I felt the same thing that you felt, but like I said, it's good the way that you put it. And kind of the information you always give out. Thanks again, guys.
I mean, anytime. Dave B, what's up?
Hey, thanks, Mark. Thanks, everybody. I'm touring the States right now. I'm down in Arkansas. It's been awesome, but I was in Tennessee and I was in Nashville, went for a show, all that, and heavy Democrat presence. And of course, this all exploded there. And wow, did I ever get chewed, especially because Canada, the 51st state, all of that, and heavy Democrat. But the district models are very complicated because you have so many layers of them. And, when I was pursuing that for 51st State, that's a huge hurdle to explain, especially, to Canadians, never mind with Americans. But, you're like, there's layers of district models. And you really nailed that, Mark. That was awesome on DC. And it troubles me that people don't get that. And I got mega flack in Nashville. Honestly, I don't think I'd return there. Very, very woke there. I was surprised, I guess, but you don't know. I'm enjoying the southern states. It's good. I'm just watching my P's and Q's right now a little bit in some of your cities, but rural's really good, and a lot of people do get it. I was surprised when I went through Kentucky. A lot of smart folks there. I really like that state, and of course, Arkansas here is really fun too. People are great, but the big cities here in the States, kind of like Canada. One thing I'm going to add here about Ottawa and those statistics, Mark, Ottawa is filthy and vagrancy, high crime compared to what I experienced in Washington, D.C. last year. And, I kind of attribute to, if you're in that, you grow up in a messy house where it's really filthy, you don't know until you go somewhere else and it's, clean house, orderly, and you realize, geez, you grew up in a filthy house. That's Ottawa. And folks realize we're really dictatorial, like, the trucker protest in Ottawa, all the arrests. People got years sentences, right? Like for mischief. Like it's incredible. Pedos get off less. And I guess with Canada and understanding crime rates, it's what is a crime? What's a crime in the United States that we can all say, hey, that's a crime. That guy stole or that guy stabbed, that guy did violence on somebody. And you guys are talking about youth. Well, it's all ages in Canada, and it's way worse. I find the GTA, Ottawa, high crime. You try to go to Ottawa, to our capital, you go park in an underground parkade, you try to go up a set of steps to get to the top, you're going to have filth and scum there, and you can get robbed, and they just catch and release here. Plus, they have safe injection sites to the likes of which Americans have never seen or experienced. Even if you look at California, I know American teams about a year and a half ago, I did what's called East Vancouver, and it blows California's coast out of the water. Those American research teams, they were scared to go down that East Vancouver. Like it's scary, and you've never seen inhumanity ever like that anywhere in North America. So careful with stats and comparing other countries because what they consider crime is not nowhere near what should be crime, which is crime in the United States and taken care of. So, I'm just saying kudos, Mark. It's great, but don't trust these other city statistics. They're scummy. Like you go to Ottawa, it's scummy. But God bless you all, and I'm really enjoying the states. Getting a lot of myth busts in. They drive real fast down south here, so I love it a lot, and I love the people of America. I feel real at home here. I love it. Thank you.
Thanks, Dave. Enjoy your travels. And yes, the crime statistics in blue cities are cooked for sure. They're manipulated data for, I mean, especially there's people on here that live near these cities like Atlanta or like Chicago or Philly, and they'll say, well, I mean, that chart is great, but that's not what's happening because I just got mugged like 2 weeks ago. I'm hearing that very often. People are having these testimonials on here, even if it's not recent, it's makes it even worse because if they're in a supposedly safe Democrat run area, why is this woman unsolicited going into an X space saying how she was molested or had her purse stolen or whatever? So people aren't believing it. and I think it's pretty easy to debunk. Thanks, Dave. Couple of breaking things. So James Comer, who's the Republican from Kentucky, the chairman of the House Oversight Committee, is going to subpoena Muriel Bowser. The headline from Newsmax I just got is Bowser must answer to Congress on crime. House Oversight Committee Chair Comer told Newsmax on Monday night he will call Washington, D.C. Mayor Muriel Bowser to testify before Congress as part of a new push to address the capital city's escalating crime crisis. Okay, so that's something to keep on your radar. So it's all hands on deck. It's a coordinated messaging strategy by the president and his allies in Congress that work in Washington, D.C. So you'd think they'd have a vested interest in making it safe. So there's that for you. Also, let me just read you this one paragraph from Trump's executive order supporting what he did yesterday. Okay, where is it? Just bear with me 1 second. And then Cuervo's on deck here. So this is President Trump's words. The increase in violent crime in the heart of our republic has consequences beyond the individual tragedies that have dominated media coverage. Such lawlessness also poses intolerable risks to the vital federal functions that the police that take place in Washington, D.C. Violence and crime hamper the recruitment and retention of essential federal employees, undermine critical functions of government and thus the well-being of the entire nation, and erode confidence in the strength of the United States. These conditions are disgraceful anywhere, but particularly in the capital of our nation, in the seat of the federal government. Citizens, tourists, and federal workers deserve peace and security, not fear and violence. Okay, so let's dissect that quickly. He's using the argument in his executive order, translation for regular people like us. He's saying the government, the bureaucrats, and all the people that the Democrats love, federal employees, all the people that Elon Musk was trying to fire several months ago, he's saying they're not safe. These Democrat staffers are not safe. These Democrat lobbyists are not safe. These civilian employees that are registered Democrats and Republicans that work at the Department of Defense, Pentagon, or whatever, or a satellite office right in the district are not safe. He's making the argument that, Nancy Pelosi's not going to be safe. Eric Swalwell's not going to be safe. AOC can't be safe because the crime statistics indicate that there is uh, a huge problem in our capital. So what he's saying is basically he's using this reverse psychology. I'm just doing this to protect you, so you Democrat staffers can get off the metro or get out of your Uber and not get molested. You know, so we'll read a little more of his executive order, but I'm going to go to Cuervo next. Okay, guys. So I hope this is all making sense for you. Please grab a mic and let me know if you have any questions or comments. People are asking me for that back and forth I had with Diligent. I'm going to put it up in the nest as Cuervo's talking. All right. And that refers specifically to Speaker Mike Johnson and his role in all this, because they're trying to equate Nancy Pelosi's role on January 6, 2021 to what Mike Johnson in their mind is not doing. So let's clear up some more mess after Cuervo goes.
Good morning. Yeah, something else I wanted to bring up is what happens next, right? Like I really do feel that the Democrat Party it feels like they're losing control. I mean, they're not even self-correcting. They're like doubling and tripling down on the rhetoric. And here's what I fear, and I don't think anybody's talking about this, but it's the way that they're doubling down as a cover for allowing Democrats to infiltrate the Republican Party. And what do I mean by that? What anecdotal evidence do I have of that? Um, Summer's in here, so she should know. But it's things like this where the Democrat mayor of Dallas just suddenly switches party, and there's no like, oh well, are you going to change all your policies? No. I'm not changing my policies. I'm just changing the party in which I facilitate my policies. And I just feel like that the Republican Party or this MAGA movement is really in danger of being infiltrated and watered down in a way by people that are going to claim they're not. I don't really think that they're true to themselves on this, but they're going to claim, oh, my Democrat colleagues are crazy, and I need to find a new home. And I think that that's strategic. I think that Americans don't look at just how um, organized, methodical, and smart. I'm gonna hate to say it. We I think they masquerade their own stupidity behind a strategy, and that strategy is how do we destroy the Republican Party? And they're going to use infiltration to do it. And so I just I don't know what happens next. I mean, I like what Trump's doing. I think he's doing everything, and he doesn't care because he doesn't have to worry about being reelected in 2028. But I what I worry about is the optics and how it's going to attract all these like crazy, leftists that have been fully gaslit by, oh, sorry, I said the word gads, but gaslit by years of things like the Russia collusion hoax and, Stormy Daniels and you name it. The list is like a hundred topics long. How do these optics of this DC stuff influence what those people think about what's going on in this country? Because they're not sitting there going, yeah, finally somebody's taking care of crime in DC. They're looking at it and going, oh no, this is how Hitler started. Right. So I don't know. I don't know where we go next, but I would just say as a call to action, people need to get involved and make sure that they're paying attention to who's getting into their Republican parties locally, and ensure that we're not letting fake Republicans come in and water down the party. That's it for me.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're there, Cuervo. If the Epstein situation was not proof positive, that I think people think that the MAGA red hat stuff is going to be over in 2028, and they're looking for their next meal ticket. That could be it. Could be no. Again, we tend to overthink and overcomplicate things, and I think that's just what it is. That people are indifferent to politics, and they just latch on to it when there's an opportunity. And that's not. I'm not talking about X. I'm talking about more. I mean, look at Candace Owens. I mean, she's completely lost it. Okay, completely. I mean, even if you agree with her sentiments on her opinion in the state of Israel, you need to do better with a spokesperson or spokeswoman for that sort of, because she's not very bright and she thinks she is. And people like that are very dangerous, regardless whether they're supporting. That's why I'm not a huge fan of Riley Gaines, because of the fact that she allowed herself to be manipulated by like the DeSantis people, and really, and Laura, again, say what you want about Laura Loomer. She had the receipts. I mean, uh, President Trump put that act into law and fortified Title IX, and Riley Gaines was caught red-handed getting $4,800 for a speech in Tennessee on behalf of Ron DeSantis in 2023. So that's why I'm not the hugest fan of her as spokesperson for that movement and that's a wicked important movement, keeping men out of women's sports and women's spaces, obviously, because and a lot of that is she's young and maybe apolitical or doesn't know a lot, but yeah, I mean, there's a lot of, again, you can agree with Candace Owens and her take on Israel, but you need to find a better spokesperson because she's fucking terrible at it. Okay, and she's not very bright. Those are just two examples. And what do those two examples have in common? They went from Trump supporter to who knows what, right? That's Riley Gaines and Candace Owens. Those are just two in particular. I could name a lot more. That's what we have to worry about, Cuervo, because they have enormous followings. They're known globally. I'm not so much worried about somebody on an X platform with a space with 1,500 people on it. They don't have the exposure that these global personalities with a lot of money behind them. That's what we have to worry about, in my opinion. Summer, what's up?
Oh, you caught me right as I was pouring salt into my water. So, Cuervo, you're exactly right. And if you look at Dallas, and now they have this quote unquote, Republican, which is the funniest thing. The crime is insane. And never, all I wanted to say is never in my now 48 years of living on this planet did I think that one man with a quote unquote bad tan, bad hair, a funny way of talking, and a weird way of dancing would ever move a group of people to be so incredibly stupid. The fact that people are fighting crime, like murders, rapes. I mean, the innocence of children, like they can't even play outside in most Democratic run areas. And it is. I mean, let's just call a spade a spade. I mean, they love this shit. I don't know if it's because they make a ton of money on it. I don't know what is going on. They love to see people get hurt. They love crime. They love thugs because they are one. And it's just, this man comes in and he just shakes the ground from underneath them. And I'm sitting here yesterday watching some of this and listening last night after our space, and I'm listening to Trump and I'm like, nothing he said is wrong. Federalize the fuck out of all of this. Like, please go to LA. Please go to LA. My family lives there. Like, I want my daughters to be safe, and they're not. And they've talked about this with me. So it just blows my mind that one person can do so much good for one side and so much disdain for the other. And I bless him for it, because I'm telling you, the fact that you have people in government standing up there saying that because it's Trump, you know what? We're going to let the crime slide this time. It just blows me away. They don't care. And if you're a Democrat at this point, you are a worthless piece of shit. You are a thug. You are not a good human being, because this is not how humans are supposed to behave. We are not a civil society right now if we're allowing this. The fact that we got to the point where our president has to do this, I'm done. Like, get me off the planet. Let the flood come. Like, I'm so over this just bullshit with these people, and they have way too much power. They really do. And I hope you all have a great morning.
Well, you too, Summer. Very well said. And what you said is correct. Eventually, right and wrong comes into play, and I think this is the libertarian influence on the Republican Party, is that they are what did now Massey on Sunday night before the press cut, he had to open his mouth, didn't he? And he said he wasn't even talking about specifically what President Trump was going to announce, but it was more so a related story where they caught an underage person. I'm sorry, Washington D.C. has a non has strict gun laws. Okay, now again, I'm not a fan of that, being a Second Amendment absolutist, but they have legislated in that city that concealed carry is illegal. Okay, and they're hardly unique. There's a million. I mean, Summer was just talking about. I mean, California, perfect example. Whole bunch of other blue states where concealed carry is not allowed. Okay, that's a different argument. We're all fans of the Second Amendment. But Tom Massey was trying to say, well, good luck getting the crime down, Mr. President, but carrying a pistol is a constitutional right. Okay, so here's the situation, Tom. They're in Washington, D.C., where sadly, I'll admit sadly, the local citizenry has voted that they do not want concealed carry pistol or open carry pistol in the District of Columbia, again, which is not a state, it is a federal autonomous zone where our capital is. We have to stop talking about Washington, D.C. like it's New York, guys, because it's not. It's again, I'm going to say it again because there's more people in the room. It's its own thing. I think people are not Democrats. I expect this from, but Republicans are misconstruing the fact that it's a Democrat-run bureaucracy like San Francisco, like Chicago, like Boston, like New York, that it's in that same bucket. That, oh, it's just another Democrat-run city. We can't step on the Constitution. They're getting the government they voted for. That's what the libertarians will tell you. Well, it's not, because the president has control over our capital with this act. So no, it has nothing to do with anything you're talking about, Tom. You just want to try and make Trump look like a gun grabber. Okay, so this is the libertarian influence on the Republican Party. They want to get hung up on stuff written in the 1790s that they think is applicable today, when there's been subsequent laws passed on the in many of these Democrat states, on the county level, state level, etc. That it's funny, they argue that libertarians want Americans to be powerful citizens on the state level, and then when the states, even if I don't agree with the law, invoke these anti-Second Amendment laws, that he doesn't want people to be prosecuted for that. So, I mean, there's a reason why I don't live in a blue state, guys. Okay, because I don't want to give up any of the guns I have that have lost at the bottom of the ocean. Wink, wink. You know what I'm saying? Like, some people move there, don't want to be gun owners, and that's fine too. So just things to consider. All the worst people are attacking President Trump for fighting crime. Yeah, you're all right for now.
Okay, I just want to point out one thing that Cuervo talked about, and people still don't pay attention. People still blaming the Democrats. We already know they're communists, they're socialists. The biggest issue over here is the Republicans, the social democratic Republicans, the ones that you elect to the office and they go full socialist, using your money, your tax money, and every social program around. And sadly, every major city, it doesn't matter what state you are. It's even worse on places like California, whatever. It turns like that. You got Republicans that doesn't stand on their own principles. What we have in America right now, people are losing the principles. You cannot be a conservative and be halfway conservative. You cannot be a libertarian and be 50 cents inside the libertarian mentality. I'm longer for the return of the classical libertarian. That's the one that we're missing. I thought the Massey was going to be in through that field. But later on, he's turning like sort of like an anarchist within the Republican Party, because he knows that every time when he runs for elections, he's going to get elected. He has a base that is voting for him. And now he has the backing of Elon Musk, which, by the way, nobody has spoken about it no more. Elon Musk pitched the idea of the third party on the United States. A lot of you don't like Republicans or Democrats. Okay, I understand. But go around the world and look at every single place a republic, a parliamentary republic. See how those folks are faring. See how they're doing. They're even worse than us. They're already overtaken by the Marxist idea of there is no property. Everything belongs to everybody. There is no individuality. And as long people don't pay attention to those principles, as long people don't take measures into their own civics, because you can apply your civics to the situation where you live on, you're still going to be in trouble. Trump is not going to fix the problems of every major citizen of this country. I mean, for every major city in this country, because it's not worthy. There is people, they are ready, they want to live like that. They are ready understood that they're paying the government for doing nothing, that they're paying the government for getting displaced. And now you have places like, I don't know, many places around our country that you got people moving from all these crazy states, California, New York, Minnesota, whatever. Once they get to the state border, they don't leave the mentality, that mentality that brought the state down outside. They don't come and freshen up saying, hey, you know what? I'm moving, but I'm going to improve my way of using my civil rights, using the power of my powers as a citizen to get a better life for me. No, within 10 years, they fall into the same shit. Look at Austin, Texas. I like that. I can tell you, for example, my own example, West Palm Beach, Florida, right next to Mar-a-Lago, West Palm Beach, Florida. Look, Palm Beach County, the entire part of the city is all blue. You go to the countryside, people have the same mentality that we do. But who's running the show? The people on the blue side, because they're the ones that get in the media. They're the ones that getting the attention. They're the ones that every time when the voting cycle comes around, promise people shit. Who's gonna pay for that promise to get fulfilled? It's gonna be yourself and the person that lives right next to you and every single taxpayer on this country. There was a case that nobody paid attention. And I understand that George Santos got issues. But remember, a lot of Republicans, conservatives from New York, they were on board of kicking Santos out. Remember, Ron DeSantis, the governor of Florida, he changed the legislation because he wanted to run for president. That ain't a Republican conservative. From that moment on that you use the power of the office, from that moment on that you use the taxpayers' money for a private enterprise, you become a socialist. And that's what America got to pay attention to. But still, people still hoping that somebody else is going to save their life. You are the only person that can save your life. You are the only one that can teach your kids how to do right and wrong. You are the only one that can stand up for yourself under the law, because you're not doing nothing illegal. It's all under the law. And what you were talking only, God, is that theory that they keep pitching around, the unitarian executive power theory. That's what Trump is enforcing. He's using the power of what do you call it? I forget about it. That second line of the Constitution that gives him plenty powers is fulfilling that equation completely. Thanks God. I'm coming down to listen. Appreciate it.
Yeah, man. Thank you. Yeah. There's nothing he's doing that is against the Constitution. That's what we have to be very clear. I understand people will have I expect the Democrats to be against it, and I understand why libertarians will always be against it because they like everything decentral. There are some things, guys, that the president can do, whether it's the 18th century or the 21st century, that may come off as authoritarian, but that is how we designed our country. Okay, when George Washington gave his first State of the Union address, he got a book with our new Constitution in it, and he was the first president, so it was uncharted territory. He would write in the margins of where where it said his powers lied, and this is why he was very, very careful not to step down after 2 terms because he didn't want to appear as a king. We don't have a monarch, of course, but guys, the presidency was designed to run a country. So there are going to be some powers. That's why voting is very important. This is why we call them chief executive of the United States. This is why we call them commander in chief of the military. Okay? They don't have royal blood. There's no ceremonies putting a crown on their head, but they do have some extraordinary powers. And that doesn't mean they're dictators. If you have a problem with it, go find Doc Brown in Back to the Future, get into his 1981 DeLorean and go back to 1776. I don't know what to tell you guys. This is how our country is made. You know, this is how we were made, with blood, sweat, and tears. You know, it's that's why I don't want to argue about stuff that is a fact. You don't like the optics of it, it's fine, but that doesn't make it illegal. So, before I go to the speakers here, a lot of people are DMing me about the Mike Johnson's role. All right, so again, so if you look at the thread up there with the back and forth they had with Diligent yesterday, so the question was brought up: why isn't Mike Johnson doing anything? Because if we were going to dogpile Nancy Pelosi on January 6th, so the Speaker of the House, guys, is in charge of the security of the Capitol. There's a Capitol Hill police force. Remember the guy who shot Ashley Babbitt was all right. That is different than the District of Columbia Metro Police Department. Okay, they only patrol the Capitol Police Force, where the speaker's involved in that. That's only like the Lincoln Memorial, the halls of Congress, et cetera, all the grounds. They don't go out into like the hood in Washington D.C. and police the ghetto. That's the job of Muriel Bowser, the mayor, and I have the police chief's name up there, Pamela Smith, who's another woke DEI hire. If you look at her bio there. So again, Mike Johnson can't do anything about the black ghettos in Washington, D.C. They're not under his jurisdiction. They're not in his purview. Okay. Because a woman gets sadly mugged on a DC Metro train in a bad neighborhood. That has nothing to do with the Capitol Police Department. Okay, so there's two layers of law enforcement here. The Capitol Police, which is a small or small outfit that are basically the policemen of where where Capitol Hill is. That's it. They have a very small footprint in that city to deal with. Then you have the Metro Washington D.C. Cruisers, which handle regular police work like any other city. Mike Johnson is not responsible for the Metro Police Department. So again, we just have a lack of knowledge on the subject, and that's what I was trying to indicate to him. By the way, he's always been super respectful to me, and offered me a mic many times, and I have spoken in his big shot spaces before. So, but the problem is when you have a big following like that and people are putting that stuff out, um, it's not just your sycophants that are going to believe it. It's people that don't know anything about politics. And it's very important that you correct the record, not for my ego, but because it needs to be understood. I don't have a problem with them thinking Trump is a dictator, but I have a problem with the facts of the matter not being put out on the internet accurately, because then that makes you a propagandist. Doesn't make you somebody who's looking to get to the truth, right? It's all we're just keeping each other in check, guys. If we're not doing that, then that's not really asking a lot, to be honest. Like, being honest is not a lot to ask, is where I'm going. Is this making sense to you guys? So the thread's up there. Janet, you're next.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, so to make sure. One of the questions I had that I've been thinking about was when Trump said that he wants to end no cash bail in Chicago. The fact that an idiot would say that we should have no cash bail for anyone that's committing a crime is kind of stupid, because you do get your money back if you're post bail if you show up. So I don't know. I just think that one thing will make a huge difference when it comes to Washington, D.C., if they can get rid of that. But does Trump's team have the right to be able to do that? Or is it just going to be, in fact, for anything that happens, like you said, on the federal grounds, it won't have anything to do with D.C., the towns where the people own homes and apartments and things like that, considering that it's not a state? So is it going to be able to go out to that areas or not about the no cash bail? Because I think that a lot of people have quit making so much stink in their city, robberies, rapes, break-ins and things like that. If they had to pay cash bail every time, I think a lot less of them would even do it. That's all I wanted to add. Thank you very much for letting me speak.
Oh yeah, 100%, Janet. That and it's systemic in all the Democrat-run cities. So I think the question is about no cash bail. I think here's step one, because like I said, he might have Judge Deneen as the um, federal attorney there in the District of Columbia. That's huge, but the problem is we still have judges and we still have the rules of engagement, so to speak, that the DC police have to follow, and they really can't do much with the juvenile crime, unfortunately, because, like I said, it's outsourced to family court, like juvie. When if you pull a gun on somebody as a 16-year-old, you should be prosecuted as an adult. So I think what the recourse is when you build up the police presence in the District of Columbia with the National Guard, you get the scary hombres, throughout the city, just like what happened in Los Angeles in May when the soldiers and Marines had to protect ICE, making the arrest of the illegals and all that. I think what's going to happen is just having the presence of a few National Guard platoons, with full riot gear and M4s and all that, augmenting the local police department. That will kind of quell the storm, Janet. I don't know what it's a great question. I don't know what she can do about the no cash bail. I think the decisions on that is based on the local politicians down there in the District of Columbia. They're never going to move to get rid of that. Just for the record. So we have to find workarounds. Maybe she could do something where uh, during this 30-day period that minors can be for violent crimes or murders or homicides can be prosecuted as adults. There might be some loophole like that. But I think once the citizens see the city cleaned up, they're going to push their politicians to get rid of that no cash bail. That's really, I mean, that destroyed New York, in short order under de Blasio, like 10 years ago. And it just got progressively worse. They have that in Boston. They have it in Chicago. That no cash bail just is that's the poison pill of all poison pills, I think, friends. So something to think about. Let me just catch up on DMs really quick here because I'm getting a lot of them here. A lot of you guys can't speak, but you want to ask a question, so I appreciate that. Blah blah blah. So Mike Johnson, okay. So the question I was asked here was, does Mike Johnson have to approve of all this? He has to be notified by Trump, which I'm sure he has, and he's already put out a tweet yesterday saying that he supports it. Look, guys, the statistics the statistics are backing the action. Okay. I know many of you think Trump just likes to walk into places and turn tables upside down for the sake of turning tables upside down. I mean, I don't live in the mid Atlantic, but I mean, I'm on the East Coast. Washington, D.C. is one of the most dangerous cities, and it has been. Once you get away from the tourist areas, like any big city where they have heightened security, you're going to find a big problem. And what's the commonality? It's been under Democrat control for a long time. So Democrats are soft on crime, guys. It's not a DC problem. It's a national problem, right? And again, here is the argument. If you find yourself in a space where it's just about TDS and people are mad at Trump about Epstein, so they're going to straw man this situation. You have to phrase this in your own way. But it's almost like they're going to quote you the Constitution and blah. Okay, but here's the thing. That's great because we're obviously on a social media app talking about political things because we have interest in it. That's not 90% of America, guys. That's like 30% of America, right and left combined. So the argument, the burden for the I guess the people like Diligent is that they are selling the fact that this is beyond the president's purview, and therefore the crime and anarchy have to be acceptable. Good luck with that, dude. This is like, you know what this reminds me of? Like when Kamala Harris said there was no problem. She was the border czar, and she said in her campaign that there was no problem at the border, and it cost her the election. Make no mistake, that one issue alone. So, guys, I want the Democrats to run on that message in the midterms that cleaning up crime is not in the best interest of the American citizen, because that's what it is. They could talk about constitution and overreach all they want. It's not a losing issue for Trump or any president who does this, even if it was somebody like Obama. This is the point I'm telling you. Whether they mean to or not, the detractors of what Trump is doing, that claim that they're not Democrats, they're siding with Hillary Clinton, Eric Swalwell, who have all made comments that Trump's out of control here, and that the crime and anarchy are good, and that the people in Washington D.C. have to suck it up. Well, here's an idea. How about you fucking live there? And I don't mean, a townhouse in Georgetown. I mean, you go into the hood, okay, and where you have to park your car on the street. If your windows aren't smashed the next day, if you even have a car the next day, how about you live there for like a month, and then when your car's been stolen, when you've been mugged, when some 15-year-old punk with a gat tried to rob you on the train, and then you go on and have an X space and say that Trump's an authoritarian and the crime and anarchy are good because I don't believe in federal overreach. I not only do I want you to have a space saying that, I want you to go run in local politics with that message, and you will lose that election spectacularly, regardless of state. It's such a losing argument, guys. Anti-crime fighting is a loser, a big time fucking loser. It's like saying there's no problem at the border. Do you understand? This is so important, and the Democrats are walking into a trap. And I'm telling you. Let me get a few more speakers up here.
Hey guys, I just wanted to chime in real quick
Yeah.
about how the cashless that Janet was talking about in Chicago. Not only the people know this, the criminals know this, because I know a few people that are in law enforcement, like the local part of it, and when they arrest people just just out of Cook County, they sometimes the perpetrator will, like, aren't I in Cook County? Like basically when they're getting booked and all this other stuff. So when they don't, they know where they can break the law, but sometimes when they get outside that, they're not always the smartest people that are committing crime. Correct, right? So, but you hear about it with the local law enforcement talking about it. So I just want to throw that 2 cents in. And then also Pritzker you can put on that list too, because he's talking about on the news of how Trump is being a dictator.
Yeah, fuck that fat fuck. Seriously. He's all over the news on the weekend too,
Oh,
Chris.
he's everywhere, dude. I don't know why they want him. Why would they would want him? I mean, his family basically like disowned him, from what I heard.
Yeah, he was eating too much, so they evicted him. The
Yeah, the
grocery bill
brothers
is
and
too high.
sisters kicked him off the table.
Yeah, there wasn't enough food to go around. All right, JW, I think, is next.
Hey, good morning, guys. Yeah, Pritzker's a really good piece of shit. He's actually harboring fugitives from Texas Senate and Democrats, obviously, so that we can't redraw the districts here in Texas, keeping that from happening. Um, I mean, I feel sorry for Summer. Well, I mean, I feel sorry for me too, but not anymore because I moved the hell out of Harris County. But that Jasmine Crockett, Dallas, is just a worthless heifer is all she is.
I'm in Parker County now, JW. I live in the country. I got the hell out of there.
Good for you, darling. Good for you. I did the same thing. Got out in the country. So yeah. So these people that that are doing this to our states, um, they all deserve to just be arrested and freaking perp walked, um, because they're violating the Constitution. They're violating the rights of the people by election. Um, we've got John Cornyn, who's going against Ken Paxton. Ken Paxton, the AG here in Texas. He is now saying that 99% of the time he votes for or votes with Trump. But back in 2016, Cornyn was one of the first ones in the Senate here in Texas saying that Trump was in bed with the Russians and this, that, and the other, and he was pushing that narrative. You know, yeah, our AG here in Texas, doesn't have a stellar record. I mean, uh, the fraud that he was accused of is incorrect. That's already been debunked. But the infidelity with his wife and stuff like that is all it's all water under the bridge. I mean, he's still with his wife and they've made amends. Let it go. But he has jumped up double digits on Cornyn for the Senate seat. So hopefully that race in 2026 goes through pretty well. So, but anyway, good morning, guys. Love y'all, and everybody have a blessed day.
Hey, you too, man. Thank you. Yep. Summer, back to you.
So actually, JW, you haven't been keeping up with the housewives of Dallas politics, but Angela and Ken Paxton are getting divorced. She filed for divorce, and it was like a big hubbub on Twitter because that's where she announced it, because that's what classy women do. Unbelievable. Gads, you said something that caught my attention about government overreach, and can we just kindly go back to 2020, 2021, when they were trying to force us as parents to inject our children with poison, when they were trying to force us to put masks on our children couldn't go to school. They were trying to arrest us moms at board meetings for standing on our truth as a mom, saying we will not do this to our children, that history will absolutely despise us, and we were told by our government that we were the problem. That was government overreach, when they tried to take jobs from hardworking Americans because they didn't want to just inject themselves with some God only knows what. Thank God so many didn't. But that was government overreach. When you had a crazy old man standing up there, senile, not knowing his ass from his head, although they look the same, saying, if you don't do this, well, I've seen enough to know what it looks like, I'm sure, Christopher. But that, to me, was government overreach. And none of the Democrats had a problem with that shit. So I'm not taking you seriously. You guys, they are showing themselves. And, if there's anything I've learned, it's that evil really does expose itself. And it's not hard to see it if you're really looking. Like, this isn't hard to see. These people are horrible, horrible people. And they don't care about citizens. They care about Trump. It's the weirdest thing. So yes, I mean, government overreach. Please, Trump, reach. Keep reaching. I love it. It's pissing them off. It's making them show themselves even more. And I think he's doing a fantastic job as the president of the United States. He's amazing.
Yes, he is. Yeah, exactly. There's a big difference between what was going on in 2021 compared to now. Like I said, I wish them luck. I wish all the people that think that Trump is a dictator and they're worried that he's going to federalize the National Guard in Democrat cities. Uh, run on that message that, like, this. See, they're acting like there's no problem. And I'm going to go into his executive order a little bit more quickly. It's not a long one. You guys should read it. It's only about a page. It's not some long, ponderous thing. Speaking of California and all that, when I talked about when the Marines and soldiers were deployed to, augment ICE during their mass deportation operations in in LA. Is anybody talking about the California National Guard being federalized? I know it was 2 months ago. Nobody's talking about it. So, like I said, it's August, guys. By like Halloween, nobody's going to be talking about, oh, Trump the dictator federalized the National Guard. God forbid we don't have vagrancy and homeless shit on the streets of our capital. Man, that's such a loser issue. Why would anybody want to fight crime? This is what they're going to talk around it, the detractors, and they're going to act like that's not what they're defending. But they are. You can't have it both ways, guys. You can't straw man Trump saying that he's doing this to either distract from Epstein or distract from other issues, and then say you're not inadvertently defending crime. It's like the people. Look, Elon Musk is a piece of shit, but the concept of Doge is not a bad thing. Okay, and the people that were arguing, why are we stopping paychecks to 5,000 dead federal employees? That's authoritarianism. So you had a lot of people at the end of the day, they were talking themselves into knots. But what they were saying, guys, let me translate what the Democrats were saying in English, that the fraud is good. So again, you've got what's his name saying that the crime is good, because that's the only takeaway I could get from his cryptic post, is that he believes the crime and anarchy is acceptable to his fellow Americans. Okay? Don't overcomplicate it. That's the heart of the matter, guys. Before I go to ML, let me just read you this paragraph. This is another excerpt from Trump's executive order on this. The local government of Washington, D.C. has lost control of public order and safety in the city, as evidenced by the 2 embassy staffers who were murdered in May, the congressional intern who was fatally shot at a short distance from the White House in June, and the administration staffer who was mercilessly beaten by a violent mob days ago. That's the person who Big Balls saved. So, and he got pretty fucked up, guys. He had to stay in the hospital for 3 days. Like, he was not in good shape at the end of that scrape. So continuing here, citizens, tourists, and staff alike are unable to live peacefully in the nation's capital, which is under siege from violent crime. It is at a point of national disgrace that our capital has a violent crime rate that is higher than some of the most dangerous places in the world. It is my duty to our citizens and federal workers to secure the safety. Okay, last thing, mobilizing the National Guard pursuant to my authority under the Constitution. Pursuant to my authority under the. So if it's in the Constitution, how can he be a dictator? All right, continuing. In the laws of the U.S. and Washington, D.C., I direct the Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth, to mobilize the District of Columbia National Guard. Okay, so just like any state, even though it's not a state, Washington, D.C. has its own National Guard. It's probably only 1,000 officers and men at most. It's very small. So we're not talking about like the Texas National Guard, the Florida National Guard, that's basically like a standing army. All right, we're talking about 500 officers, NCOs, and enlisted. Okay. The mobilization and duration of duty shall remain in effect until I determine that conditions of law and order have been restored to Washington, D.C. Further, I direct the SecDef to coordinate with state governors and authorize the orders of any additional members of the National Guard to active service as he deems necessary and appropriate to augment this mission. So what that means is basically specially trained National Guardsmen with riot control or urban combat, or basically like SWAT, would be authorized if need be. Okay, I'll leave it there. I hope you guys are learning here. ML, what's up, man?
Yeah, good morning. You invited me up here. You invited me into the space. I'm assuming you want some expert outside opinion from your foreign correspondent. Now, I've got a question.
Correct.
Gads, what is the exact wording that Trump used to justify this Washington thing? He didn't call it an emergency, did he? What's the exact wording of the justification for this action?
Yeah,
Do you know?
an emergency. an emergency. Yeah, many words, but emergency is one of them.
Okay. So just out of interest, I was grokking a little bit earlier where DC stands in comparison to other large US cities, as well as other cities around the world. And of course, Washington. It depends. I don't know if anyone's read the book How to Lie with Statistics. I read that thing way back in high school. It's a brilliant book. And so, like you've been saying, you can slice and dice the stats many different ways to get many different results. But overall, from what I'm seeing, the crime rate in DC, it's not totally out of line with that in other places like New York, Chicago, St. Louis. What other cities came up on the list? New Orleans, you go down the list, right? So you can argue about exact stats. Depends what geographic area you include, if it's a city proper, if it's the greater, say, Baltimore area. You know what I'm saying? It depends the boundaries you use, and it depends on the definition of crime, violent crime, and whatnot. But Trump probably rightly declared that things are out of control in DC and that it's an emergency. Now, what's not going to be easy to reconcile here is there's at least a dozen other cities in the US that are in the same situation. So, I mean, the ideal thing would, and of course, Trump can't take control of other cities like Baltimore because, like you've been explaining, DC is a special situation. But how can Americans come together and say, well, if it's an emergency in DC, you can't have the same crime rate in New York and it's not an emergency? And so, what can be done? Maybe not by force or by action by the Trump administration, but you can't let that sit. It can't be an emergency in Washington and not in St. Louis and Detroit that have the same or higher violent crime rates. So that's an interesting discussion in my view. Can a pressure be applied? Can you kind of define what's an emergency or unacceptably dangerous? Can you define that or not define that? And finally, when you look at that, I know you want to focus on America, but if you really want to feel bad, like compare some other major cities or metro areas to DC. You don't want to compare DC to Singapore or Dubai because you'll be completely embarrassed comparing DC to cities that have 1/10 the crime rate and 0 on the streets and zero visible homelessness, right? So there's a lot. This is a good thing, Gaz. I'm supportive of what you're saying. It's great to go in and clean up and government overreach. What a joke. My God, I guess if is it government overreach to enforce laws? Yeah, what a joke. I mean, government overreach. I mean, look at Newsom telling Californians they can't drive gasoline-powered cars anymore. There's government overreach all over the place with the Dems. And on the flip side, if you flip the coin over, hey, let's talk about the overreach of organized gangs. Let's talk about the overreach of drug dealers. Let's talk about the overreach of other elements in these cities on the other side. That's overreach. So I'm adding all these points in for you, Gads, and I want to hear your response to this. I know it's, but looking from the outside in, again, I'm going to leave this with you. How can you, and I had this, I grokked all the data. I don't have it in front of me here, but all the violent crime rates for the top 20 worst US cities. Washington's just one of the 20. How can that be an emergency and the other 19 are not? Okay, thanks, Gads. Thanks for letting me chime in here, and good morning to you.
Good morning, buddy. No, great question. Lots of great questions in here. You guys are batting 1,000 today. I like it. People are thinking. People are using that part of their brain that's thought provoking. So continue. So it is an emergency in all of those blue cities, ML. The problem is that the court of public opinion has already weighed in that it is an emergency. What's holding all those cities back is the politicians, the judges, and the attorney generals. This is where the Soros seed money comes into play. Because of the fact that he basically bought lifetime appointments of state attorney generals because they're cheaper to finance those political races than like a senator or even a congressman. What you have is a retinue around cities like Boston, New York, LA, Chicago, San Francisco. You have Democrat retinues around them where it's one party rule. So a Democrat mayor is going to be backed by, in all of these cities I just mentioned and you mentioned, ML, 100% Democrat controlled. I've done the research for previous spaces I did. So you've got Democrat mayor, Democrat police chief, Democrat judges on the state bench, Democrat judges on the state Supreme Court, Democrat judges on the federal bench, the appeals benches. You've got Democrat attorney general funded by George Soros. What you have is this network, this Venn diagram of one party rule, where even if the city of St. Louis elects a Republican mayor, you still have a Democrat police chief, you still have Democrat prosecutors, etc. You're seeing this even with Eric Adams in New York, who I guess he found religion and now he's an independent. You saw what happened. This guy's been a Democrat and a big policeman. He's been a politician his whole life. And when he tried to clean up New York of these illegals, they tried to indict his ass. So, and I don't care if he calls himself an independent. He's a liberal Democrat from the Bronx, and that's all he's ever going to be. Just because he's kissing Trump's ass right now, he's doing that for self-preservation. They tried to indict his ass when all he was trying to do was maybe not have 11,000 illegals in Midtown Manhattan, maybe just have like 1,000 and call it a day. And they tried to throw him in jail. So you can't bust through any of these states. The people of New York want the crime to be zero, of course. The problem is they can't vote their way out of this mess. The only state that's salvageable, the only city, ML, would be St. Louis, because St. Louis is a blue hellhole in the middle of a very red state where you've got a Republican governor, Republican attorney general. I think all the congressional seats but one are Republican. St. Louis is like this blue little stronghold in a very red state of Missouri. That, you could get a Republican mayor in there and change things rapidly. These other cities, there's no chance. There's no chance unless they get rid of the judges. It's not even the mayor and the politicians, guys. It's the judges. It's the attorney general. It's the people who are the law givers are the problem, right? So it's systemic, and it's Trump can do something about Washington D.C. and he is, and maybe that'll be a model, and maybe people in Philadelphia will say, I've been too lazy to get off my fat ass and vote. Maybe I'll vote for a Republican mayor who's a crime fighter. And then the guys, wait, when this Mamdani guy wins in New York, 6 months after he's in office, New York will be like a Mad Max post-apocalyptic city. It's going to be like that movie Escape from New York. Pun intended. So yeah, we got some serious issues here. Great stuff, ML. Guys, we're going to go half an hour more. I just want to sidestep briefly to let you know the economic numbers came out. Inflation stayed the same in July, and there's declines in commodities and energy, etc. So once again, the libertarians and Democrats are wrong. I was right. And I'll read you I'm going to gather those numbers up, but is there any difference between a libertarian and a Democrat right now? Seriously. Is a libertarian just a progressive Democrat that is pro Second Amendment at this point? Because they're certainly not pro like nationalism when it comes to our economy. But these actually, let me read them, guys, because this is important. 1 second. Well, it's before I forget. Well, it's top of mind here. Okay. These are just some. Listen to these numbers. These are all negative, so declines in cost of living. Okay. Gas is down 9.5% year over year. Smartphones are down 14.7%. Fuel 3%. Energy commodities down 9%. Hotel expenditure, hotel pricing down 5%. Propane down 2.5%. Butter and margarine down 2%. Don't eat margarine, guys. Rice and pasta down 1.5%. Even sports tickets are down 1%. So the economy is getting better, guys. People can say the tariffs are going to be a tax on us, but they can say that, but it's not reality. It's not grounded in what we're experiencing right now. So does Trump know what he's doing with the economy? That's the question. Fed up, you haven't spoken yet. You can go.
Yeah, well, that's the thing, and you kind of said that is the hope that cleaning up DC, and speaking of the other cities that have things more in check, we're looking to not turn into the opposite side. We're not, we're trying to prevent turning into some of the stuff going on in London and Paris and some of these other cities that arguably are worse. Because they're getting on top of the crime ridden and progressiveness that DC has, they're getting overridden by jihadists on top of everything. So we have to get our capital under control. And the thing that irritates me about the some libertarians, and there's a fight going on in the libertarians. The Mises caucus aren't as bad, but they'll sit here and talk about what's going on in DC, and they'll act like DC's like everywhere else in the country, and it's not. It's federal property, and Trump is using a law that many people have looked at and have told Muriel Bowser to her face, you can't challenge this. He has the right to do this in DC. Now, if he was going into Chicago and doing the same thing, then no, that most likely would not be constitutional and would be a lot more of a risky strategy. But with this, he's got all the backing, and we were talking about this last night. Trump and his folks are doing a tremendous job of finding laws that exist and using them extremely effectively, and using them the way they were probably intended to begin with. The people who put in this law, and the founding fathers would have never wanted DC to become the crime-ridden hellhole it is. It's supposed to be the capital of the country. It's supposed to be where we do the country's business, right? That can't be what it is now, a corrupt, disgusting shithole. And so he's got to fix it.
So, Fed up, what would you say to Massey, who, I don't know if you saw it was Sunday night. It was not specifically related to Trump's press conference yesterday, but he basically said that because the Second Amendment is absolute, even though in the District of Columbia, it's not absolute. So again, we can have disagreements with that on principle, and I respect that. But that's been a long-standing thing. I don't know if you guys know this, but even in like the 1940s, there was never open carry or concealed carry in the District of Columbia. Okay, it's not Bozeman, Montana, and it never was. It never was even in the 19th century, guys. You simply can't walk around like you can in New Hampshire or Montana or Wyoming, strapped like you can in those states. You can't do that in Washington D.C. There's too many national monuments, too many national parks, too much. Again, disagree with the application of the Second Amendment or lack thereof. That's fine, but I mean, there's a, like, I as somebody who has a concealed carry permit, I can't bring my guns if I took like a family trip to Washington D.C. I have to respect that. Okay. Um, I disagree with it, but I have to respect that. Um, what do you think about Tom Massey's comment that he completely ignores the crime statistics and says that Trump is basically being authoritarian, and that this 17-year-old black kid had a right to have a pistol and terrorize the community? What do you, because it's constitutionally protected. What are your thoughts on that? Fed up. I don't know if you saw that post.
No, I didn't see the post, and see that's the hard thing with dealing with Massey and dealing with the the libertarians, because again, it goes back to the pragmatism versus idealism, and you know, I'm a pretty 2A absolutist, but the limits are, you also do have responsibilities. You can't, for one, he's 17. We have already, it's been established, we have the right to say that starts at an adult, that some of these rights start at a certain age, and so that takes that off the board right there. And the other thing is, you know, DC's part, I would argue part of the reason DC is, and all these liberal cities are in the problem, is because 2A has been crushed in those cities for decades. If good, we've been proven multiple times recently, good guys with a gun stop crime. So, if people would have been allowed to carry per their Second Amendment, I don't think any of these cities would be where they're at now, because you have a few, very small amount of criminals to the population. And I'll end here because so you get your other couple hands. It wasn't that long ago, the mayor of Atlanta, for example, came out and said like 90-some% of their crime was committed by like 1,000 people. Do you think those 1,000 people would be able to keep committing those crimes if the rest of the populace was armed per the Second Amendment and per what Jefferson said was our obligation, not just our rights? It was our duty to be an armed populace for exactly one of several things, and part of it's the tyranny of the government. The government stays scared if the people are armed.
Yeah, just to clear up thank you. Just to clean up that post. I'm sorry, it was not a minor. I'm rereading it, but so um, they had kind of a dry run on August 9th. I guess that was Sunday night, with increased police presence in the district. This is just an appetizer of what the police were able to do. Several arrests were made. Some include a fugitive wanted from Maryland. Okay. Multiple, just they randomly found one of Maryland's most wanted walking around Washington, D.C., just fucking walking around with his dick out in our nation's capital, a guy that should be incarcerated, just, by chance. But he wasn't even committing a crime at the time. All right. A fugitive. All right. So multiple persons carrying a pistol without a license. That's what Massey was talking about, driving on a suspended license. Dirt bike riding in the park, a 36 CFR violation. 3 handguns were seized, with one of the firearms discovered to be stolen. Given that Saturday nights typically see a spike in crime, there will be more law enforcement on the streets of Washington, D.C., with 450 officers on patrol. So this was Sunday night, a report from the Daily Caller. Okay. So, guys, just so Thomas Massey is clear, these gangbangers that were caught with unauthorized firearms, these were not like the militiamen in Lexington and Concord in 1776. Okay. These were not people that were raging against the British Empire. These were people that wanted to rob people. These were people that wanted to hurt people. Those are not Thomas Massey, in my opinion, like the Massachusetts Minutemen on Lexington Green on that April morning in 1776. Okay, the shot heard around the world. Stop trying to do that. Stop that false equivalency. Okay, this is not Captain John Parker of the Concord Militia. These are people with criminal records that have illegally procured firearms. Okay. Some people lose their constitutional rights. There's a reason why people in jail, cons, can't go to a gun store and get an AR platform, Tom, because they lost that right by fucking up in society somehow, some way. I think Thomas Jefferson would have been okay with that. I don't think he wanted a serial murder being able to go get a musket when they were in some stockade prison. All right, or even a bayonet. So let's you libertarians stay in your platitudes. I'm going to exist in reality. Okay. Summer, because you gave me the fist pump, you can go next. My ego has been stroked, so go ahead.
I'll make it quick. So I just sent my best friend. We have a girl that makes all of our funny Trump shirts, and we are now going to get ones that just say Crime Stoppers Trump 2028. And you know, one of the things that I think is interesting about this conversation, and I'm sure it's been brought up, but you know, this is also what happens when you undermine the authority of good police officers and police departments. I mean, what was the one thing that the Democrats wanted to do and have been doing is to, you know, defund the police. They love this. They want anarchy, chaos. This is how they make their money. They create the problem so they can come in and try to be the solution. But these fuckers are criminals and they're the mob and they'll never ever be the solution. And so, you know, I'm old enough now to remember back in the 80s when we had Crime Stoppers and when people had little stickers on their windows with numbers because crime was a bad thing. And so I'm getting the shirt made that's Crime Stoppers Trump 2028 and 32 and every year after. Because I just, the thought of losing this man like breaks my heart because he's so important to, as a woman, like my safety, like my daughter's safety. But, you know, we need to talk about what's happened to our police departments and why defunding them is stupid. And this is what happens. But again, the Democrats, the libertarians right now who have lost their damn marbles, if they ever had them, no offense to those, but this is what happens. And it's to the detriment of good people. And it's just insane to me.
Amen. The Democrat brand they've lost it. They're polling nationally the lowest they ever have. So I'm not really worried about the midterms. That's a Republican scare tactic. Mostly by people in Texas, not you, Summer, or anybody else from Texas in here. But don't let the Texas drama about Paxton and Cornyn and Dade Phelan and Greg Abbott, don't let that trickle down to your states, friends, because the drama in Texas is like next level. You know, you ask any Texan, they'll say that they're 5 minutes away from becoming Illinois politically. It's good. I just can't take them seriously. They're the largest Republican state in the country. It's asinine. And the Texans I talk to on here are luckily not in that mold. But there's a lot of them who I like. But I mean, they're drama kings and queens. Texas is not going blue. I admit Houston may never go red, but that doesn't mean Texas is never going to go. Those are two very different things, guys. I just remember what I told ML about St. Louis. St. Louis will never be red, but Missouri will never be blue. Two things can be true at the same time. So Texas is not going blue. Everybody just needs to calm their tits about it. When you're outside of Texas, it's insufferable to hear this.
Can I say one thing to that?
Yes, yes.
You're exactly right. And I've learned over the last 8 years, that is such a way for them to fundraise. And it is a great way to easily make money. Fear on both sides works the same way. So the fear that the Democrats use about, whatever, is the same. They just do it in a different message. And so we saw it with Ted Cruz, love him or hate him, whatever. But that Ted Cruz race with Colin, I mean, it was a bloodbath. And Texas, if anything, I think Texas is going more red because more people are understanding what's happening. And I think, again, it's all fundraising. It's bullshit. It's just another tactic that the right and the left use to make money and to keep people in constant fear so they can control you.
Summer, on that note, do you remember several years ago you had this is who the Republican Party had running in the GOP primary. Again, you had Greg Abbott, Alan West, Don Huffines, and Chad Prather. Okay, that's like not so much Abbott, but those other three. Do you know that Republicans in blue states would give their right arm to have one of those guys even enter a race in their state? And Texas is complaining. They're like, we got too many Californians. You've got like a murderer's row of Republican heroes in a fucking governor's primary, and they're fucking complaining. Like, you got to understand, if you're like in Jersey and you're a Republican, you just want to tell Texas, fuck you. You guys are complaining, and you've got the most number of registered Republicans in the country. I tell everybody, Texas is a black pill. Avoid Texas spaces because they're basically complaining about, I only have a Porsche instead of a Lamborghini. At the end of the day, that's what they're complaining about. It's insufferable. And it's not good. Yep. Go Summer.
Well,
yep.
look at the numbers that just from the 2024 election, even in blue cities, what Trump polled and it's insane. And you're right. And I won't go in those spaces anymore. I mean, probably you're right. It's a black pill. And again, I just go back to that, fear is control. And so what we need to do, though, is we need to keep localizing and grassroots and getting more people involved because, again, yes, you have blue cities, but you do not have a blue state in Texas. And Texas loves Texas like Kanye loves Kanye. And they are not just going to give all of this up. Now, with what you were saying with Abbott, Abbott is so controlled by, and I think I now know who. And so, but yes, you had three incredible men, leaders, Alan West. My gosh, the guy really is a hero. Like what he's done. But we're stuck with Abbott, Hot Wheels himself. So I think this next election will be interesting. But I do think that, again, Texas, I'm thankful. That's all I'm going to say. Being from California, I am not going to complain. I know it could be a lot worse. So when I do bitch about Abbott, I know it could be Newsom because that's where I came from. But I do think that, again, it's local. We have to make sure, and you said this earlier, that we are vetting these candidates that are running for smaller races in our cities because that really does make a difference. And, when you see a hardcore liberal or Democrat that is switching to the other side, be very, even with me, like being a former, Dem, whatever, I would want somebody to question me as to why, to make sure it's real because we have been infiltrated and there is a big problem with that. But I am very thankful for Texas, and Texas is not going blue. I mean, Beto can try all he wants, but it's never going to happen.
Yep, Beto O'Rourke was going to be your governor. Colin Allred was going to be your senator. I heard it all. And I laughed, and I continue to laugh. Nice little sidestep into Texas for a minute. Thanks, Summer. Thanks a million. Good stuff. Okay, I can't remember who was first. I'll just go to ML because he's on European time. He might be late for him. Go ahead.
Yeah, thanks, Gads. And you answered the question very well. Of course, the reason that these blue cities are not going to take action on the crime is because they're blue cities. And I hope that, change comes from the people and from the people waking up and taking action. So I hope this is a brilliant move by Trump in that it wakes everyone up and DC becomes much cleaner, much safer. And everyone looks at it and says, wow, wait a minute. And so I'm going to read off the list of the top 10, this is according to Grok, ranked the highest violent crime rate cities in America. I hope that the brainwashed Democrat voters wake up and see DC improve greatly. And these are the cities, the top 10: Memphis, Detroit, Little Rock, Birmingham, Cleveland, Kansas City, St. Louis, New Orleans, Minneapolis, Houston, according to Grok. So I hope the people in those cities wake up one day and say, wait a minute, our crime rates are the same as DC. Why aren't we calling our city an emergency? So I hope that's the way it goes. And I thank you for bringing me up, Gads. I hope you have a great morning, and hello, everyone.
You too, ML. Thank you. Appreciate it, man. Janet, go ahead.
Well, thank you for letting me speak again. Yeah, that was one of the things I was going to bring up, is that over half the crime in all these big cities has to do with drugs. Okay. So the whole crackdown that Trump has been doing with the cartels is making a dent in that. But the thing is that the cities, mayors and the governors say, oh, it's sanctuary. We're not going to do this and we're not going to follow that. It's going to take longer to clean this stuff up, simply because we have to have more resources to go to the different layers of every state that lets that kind of stuff just go on and on and on. And it's going to take a little longer. Doge has helped when it started closing down the NGOs, got rid of USAID. You saw lower rates of how many riots that we had because they didn't have the money. They didn't have the funding. They weren't getting the same amount of money flowing in to pay people to go and protest and do whatever. You're seeing lots of things like that. But it starts in the red states and moves out, because the blue states are going to be the slowest ones to do it. Trump said, and almost every rally I ever watched, is how he is sick and tired of all the crime in all these cities, and that the people deserve to have to walk down the street with their families, go to the park, and do all these things without being assaulted or robbed or having their houses broken and stuff. Like, he's always said that since day one of all the rallies I've ever seen him in. He's always wanted freedom for families to be able to be families and to feel safe in their environment. So that hasn't changed. It's just how he has to go about doing it, simply because he doesn't have the backing of any of the Democrats. I think some of them secretly are doing some things, but they're not going to come out and say it until they feel safer that the people are backing them. And that's the thing, is getting people from each state in every town to start saying, I want a clean city. I don't want to walk through and see needles and poop and zombie people walking all around. I've seen so many terrible videos of all these cities with people that are so drugged up, and there's trash everywhere and stuff, because people don't want to clean up or do anything, because in 5 minutes there's going to be more people coming in. See, it's just a big vicious cycle. And that's one of the reasons why I left Metairie, because it was so bad that I couldn't even walk from my car to the grocery store without feeling like someone was going to rob me or beat the shit out of me or drag me into a alley. It's terrible, and it's fearful for women that have daughters or sons, because we can't even go to the park. We can't play with our kids in our yards, all these different things because of drugs and crime. So we got to help Trump do this, all of these things that he's trying to do, and share things that he does, everything that's successful, saving kids, stopping drug busts, doing all these things, and share them and let people know that Trump's administration is trying to do this. And the more we share and get more people behind it, the faster we'll start seeing the changes in all our hometowns and our cities and our states. Thank you for letting me speak.
You're welcome, Janet. I think some of those drunk and disorderly, I wonder if any of them are saying Shooby-Doo that are out on the street. Probably so. That's what I think. There's got to be somebody doing that with Velcro sneakers on. What else? a tucked in t-shirt, about 5'6", 150. Drinking Captain and Diet. Might have a Minnesota Vikings t-shirt on, tucked in. I know you know.
I
All
wonder
right,
if he's a fan of those cheerleaders, or the new cheerleader.
he probably advocated for it. You know?
It could be him. Hey, you never know, right?
No, that cheerleader has sideburns.
Not 90-degree angles.
No, definitely not. No, although I shaved last night, so I don't have any right now. So I probably didn't say anything, but at least I generally have them 98% of the year. So, but I want to feel the sun on my face, guys. It's 100 degrees out. Don't let facial hair get in the way of a good suntan, you know? All right. Fed up. I think you're going to be the last speaker because I got to make a phone call for work. So go ahead.
Yeah, well, the thing is, we were talking about the the elections and the blackpilling that a lot of these people are doing, especially in Texas. I think some of it is scare tactics. And the other thing too that they're not being honest about is everything that's being done on the elections. I mean, we've got redrawing of districts. We've got literally, I know the DOJ is suing states to fix their voter rolls because my state's getting sued over like 300,000 anomalies. So we're having to fix it. There's things they can do like that. And the other thing, I hear all this fight over the census, right? He's wanting to redo the census, and there are pretty solid arguments that he does have to count everybody. But here's the caveat, and the big caveat. The citizenship question used to be on the census and is perfectly legal. Making requirements, they established this under Biden, trying to get us, they made that they could have requirements that you had to fill out the whole census or there would be penalties. So guess what illegals are going to do if there's a citizenship test and a requirement to fill out the whole thing with what Trump's doing? They're not going to fill it out. So he can't legally, quote unquote, not count them. But if they don't count themselves, oh well, So there's several things he can do on how the process is. And there are several other things. I won't get into it now because I worked for the census in 2000. And there are a lot of ways you can write up how it's run to change how it's counted. Trust me on that. And so he can do a lot of things to get a lot of the illegals not counted without breaking the Constitution.
Oh yeah, totally. And one of the interesting things is, guys, that how you're seeing stuff that Trump's numbers with independents are down because of tariffs or whatever. Amazingly, and this is something that we should capitalize on, is that independents are actually they're between 50 and 60% in favor of not counting illegals on the census. So this business he's doing with either redistricting or the census and what have you, guys, that's actually a very independent friendly, not bipartisan, but independent friendly issue, which means it's an 80-20 issue, right? So we should capitalize on that, is what I'm saying. There should be no margin for no reason that this doesn't go through, right? All right, guys, I think that's a good place to leave it. That was 2 hours. I hope you learned something on the differences of the Capitol or what Trump is doing and the propaganda you're hearing everywhere else. And you are hearing a lot of propaganda. It's already started, and it's already being debunked by yours truly and other smart people. I'm not one of the smart people, but the other smart people, they're doing it. You guys could do this on your, if you feel inclined, but he does have a leg to stand on this, guys. It's not overreach. I don't even think the optics of it are bad because, again, guys, the counter argument to what Trump is doing is that the anarchy and crime is a good thing, and the citizens in District of Columbia just have to fucking deal with it. And that's coming from people who don't live there and don't have to deal with it. So that's again, I don't have a problem with the dissenting opinion from me or from Trump, but I have a huge problem when people are it's like when you're sitting down in a lawn chair while your buddy's moving into his new house, and four of us are laboring really hard to get the sectional sofa in the front door, and this other guy's criticizing about how we're pivoting it as we bring it into the front door. It's like, get off your ass and help. We've all been in that situation, right? Where somebody's critiquing you from afar when they're not invested. This is no different. The crime in our capital is out of control, and Trump can't do things like this in Boston, New York, or LA, but he can do it in Washington, D.C. And the simple fact of the matter is he is doing it. And this is going to be a new thing, guys, with cleaning up cities as the National Guard presence, and we should be embracing it. Not just because we're pro-military, but because it's the right thing to do. And you have to remember, these city police departments, they're very, very have their hands tied. They're very, very hamstrung. They can't do certain things at present, right? So it's frustrating for everybody. All right, good space, good chat, awesome stuff, guys. I really wish I could be home and do more of these longer spaces. That's just not in the cards for me. So latch on to people who do good spaces and have good subject matter, and they're not talking about what they ate for lunch yesterday or what they're getting at Whole Foods or hacks on health. And well, hacks on health are okay, but we tend to go into, people tend to, you don't get information, you're not learning, you're hearing people just hang out, and that's fine. But time is valuable, and I can't spend it hearing about what people are getting at the fucking grocery store. And that's 80% of spaces right now. This is a very fascinating time to be in this country, and I don't know if the requisite number of conversations are being had to appreciate this. There'll never be another Trump administration, and instead of talking about nonsense, we should be talking about the history that's being made every single day. Because I got to tell you guys, when JD Vance is president in 2028, we're not going to have as interesting days as we're having now. So appreciate the moment and enjoy it, because it's not coming back. So that supersedes what are some other nonsensical space topics we see these days? Stuff about AI, stuff about obscure cryptocurrency tokens.
How
What
to run
else?
spaces.
Yeah, how to run spaces. Yeah. There's got to be some other ones in there too.
Hey guys, can I say something just real quick? Just remember, if you can remember anything, Trump was attacked for all the years he was up going into fucking office the first time. He's been attacked the whole fucking time that he was not in office, and he's being attacked now. So remember why we voted for him.
Good reminder. Good way to end it, Chris. Thanks a million, guys. I agree with you fully, brother. Have a great day, everybody. Cheers.
If you wear nice clothes, people think you're showing off. If you wear simple clothes, people think you're poor. If you speak your mind, you're rude. If you stay quiet, then you're a coward. If you're successful, then you're arrogant. And if you're struggling, then you're lazy. You see, no matter what you do in life, people will always have something to say. So ignore people and their opinions. Because so long as your God is pleased with you, who cares what people think?
He knows that this is much bigger than him. This is about the American people. They have no idea what they have unleashed. He was ready to go face the cameras and come out swinging.
What will future Americans say we did in our brief time here on Earth? It will be defined by your vision, your perseverance, and your grit. Nothing will sway us, nothing will slow us, and no one will ever stop us. We are Americans. Ambition is our heritage. Greatness is our birthright. And the future belongs to us.